Hey everyone, Dan here. We're just before market close on Monday, June 21st. Today we're going to take a look at CPSH. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. Also, I've been told by folks that commenting helps a lot spread the word of the channel, but folks generally have really good comments, provide a bunch of additional info that's very helpful to myself and to any future viewers, and so those things are certainly appreciated. This video was actually suggested by somebody in the comments or potentially on Twitter, but somebody requested it either here on Twitter, and I do jot all of those tickers down. Sometimes it just takes me a while to get to them. And then the other thing is, I've had some suggestions that in case something were to happen to the channel, I don't expect that to happen, but if it were, that it would make sense to sort of be able to connect with people additionally or outside of YouTube. So I'm going to link in the description below a Google form that you could fill out if you want to throw your email address in there. I would transition this over to like an actual email service before starting to send stuff out. And again, it'll just be if I want to add additional content that folks can have in their inbox on any given week, and or if, like I said, if something happens to the channel, we can coordinate where we go from there. I don't expect anything to happen to the channel, and I don't expect to send any emails anytime soon, but if you want to toss your email in there, then that'll sort of ensure that we have a line of communication beyond just YouTube. Okay, it's a lot to get through, but CPSH, I'm not familiar with this company. It's pretty low volume. They're trading a little over $250,000 in volume today, and on average, the last 3 months, they're trading just over $750,000. So they do this: material solutions to the transportation, automotive, energy, blah blah blah. These tons of industries. Material solution company. So for whatever info that provides you. But this is the 3-month view, and obviously CPSH has had a big downturn, and this isn't the whole story by a long shot. You see this huge run up here. At that time, it probably felt like a huge run up from like 4 to almost 12, and then it petered out a little bit. And then had this huge run up to 30, and then came down to like 27, and then 23, and then 17, and then just has not been able to get anything going on the plus side. So here's what I'm looking at. A couple of things. These are some price targets that I had started to plot out. I had started the video and then had a situation, and so I had to delete it. So I'd already started charting, but basically, the way that I see it, these zones that are support and resistance, right in here, these are really, really strong zones, which is right where it is right now. So I would hope that that holds the potential for a strong bounce. Obviously, CPSH has been under so much selling pressure that who knows, but so this one I think is really strong, and then there's potentially support there at 682. I know folks that are in this probably don't want to hear, but there is a really good support zone down at 623. I'm sure you don't want it to have to need it, but if it does get down there, it might be a good opportunity to look and see if it's showing some recovery strength or recovery signs. That could be a really good dip buy opportunity. Otherwise, toward the upside, I'd expect some resistance at that 839 level. And then I think it's probably helpful if we back this out even a little bit more. Let me see how messy this gets. Okay. Yeah. So this will be helpful. So as we go up, these are additional zones that I look for. You see previous resistance, support, resistance. And so that 935 would be a good one. And then right about here, 1059. These are areas where if the price starts to come up, you might think about trimming a position, taking your profits. You might think about retaking or entering your first position on a dip buy into price strength. I'll talk about that more in a second. It's something that I harp on a lot because I think it, can definitely help folks to not chase stocks, help folks to wait for something to show signs of recovery before jumping in. But what that looks like, if you haven't seen this before, and I'll be brief if you have, but what you do is you look for it to start to recover. So say it makes a run toward that 935 and we expect it to hit some resistance there. Let's say it does hit some resistance. Like at one of these targets on the upside, it'll hit some resistance. It'll start to pull back. As it starts to pull back into the first support area below that, the one that it already passed through, that's where you could start to average in, look at signals, green candles for price strength, look at upticks in the RSI, look for the MACD, maybe transitioning to a bullish crossover, something like that taking place. And then if you want to be very conservative so that you have, a really good upside potential, but really limit your downside, you could just take something like $8.39, pull up your good old ATR and say you're going to place your stop loss 1 ATR below 839. So you would place that at what, 812 in this instance. So that's what I would, think about using some of these price zones for. And I wanted to take this off so we have the space. And then the other thing is, is clearly had this downtrend. Now I sound like I'm just being cruel, but obviously it was under this downtrend right about here, I think was actually the downtrend. It tried to break out here and then got pushed down further. But this is where most of this topping out here, and I think it consolidated and then pushed its way. So it's well out of that downtrend. So I think there is the potential that it's establishing this up channel here. And yes, I do love to try to identify channels, but try to catch them early because that's when they have the most to offer. But it has bottomed out once, twice, 3 times, topped out once, twice, 3 times. And so it's done a good job testing the upper and lower bound of the channel. So it looks like it could, be a legit thing. So the way that you could look at this, and the purple zone will kind of interfere with this a little bit, but if it were to come down and reach the bottom of the channel or very, very close to the bottom of the channel like you see here or here, that could be an area to look for it again to show signs of strength, to start turning around and some of your indicators. MA is flipping over into a bullish pattern, something like that, and then taking a dip buy position there, assuming then that the price will run up at some point toward the top of the channel, and you could then take your profit. So if it did that in this instance, say it came down and you bought 720 or something like that, and then you rode it up and maybe you're able to sell it at 920. So $2 per share on a stock that you bought for $7 and some change. So big percentage gain there, and a really nice predictable price action when something is in a channel. That said, there is no law, no rule that says that it needs to bounce to the bottom of that channel. So it very well might just fall through it, might move sideways and just kind of work itself out of it. So just be aware, I play channels for as long as they hold, but eventually all channels break. So just keep that in mind. All right, so that's what I see on the charting side of things. On the indicators, want to take a quick look. The RSI, relatively low, could provide additional good buying pressure now that we're at that 730 bounce zone in purple, and low on the RSI. These are all cumulative factors that could, start to look pretty bullish. On the MACD, obviously, mostly bearish momentum lately. Very few green areas no green areas of any significance besides this one. But if we get a bullish crossover and it's at that bounce zone and it has a low RSI, these could be really good compounding factors that, may say, okay, this has potential. You have to keep an eye on it because it has a crazy, volatile history and it's in this long-term period of selling off. But it actually crossed over here when it had this big run up and now has support underneath it from the MA 200. So, that's another area that sometimes when price comes down and touches the 200, that it finds additional support there. Some buying pressure comes in and helps pick it back up. So that's what I would keep an eye on. I did see, let me see, this came on the 7th. There was this previous run up here around the 20th of May. I did see there's some a lot of short volume ratio coming in. I mean, it peeled off for a couple of days there, but 30s is incredibly high. High 20s, I mean, this was like 5 days of just like really, really high short volume. And it's picking back up now into the 20s since it had dropped down to the teens. So I would just keep an eye on that. You know, and Ortex has this one at this short interest increasing, and days to cover 1.55. So everything is seems to sort of be on the rise, even though there is a daily slight downtick. But overall, you know, over here we have estimated short interest percentage of floats being 14.9, and that's still relatively high. Anything over 10 is kind of like attention grabbing. Anything over 20 is, in my opinion, really, really high. Yeah, they have the current short interest of the free float estimated at 14.75. So that's the slight dip. 14.75 was at 14.90. But, you know, still something to see there. You know, many more shares returned than borrowed. So, you know, they could start to close some out, which could help bump the price back up a little bit, but something that I would keep an eye on. I don't think that this is a major like short squeeze candidate or anything like that, at least at this point. But low volume, pretty heavy volume on the short interest day to day with the ratio. So it definitely stood out as something. But yeah, it's sort of like TBD on this one. But I would just pay attention to, you know, these zones, the indicators, and kind of try to find a floor. Hopefully, eventually it finds a floor. But it's been quite a roller coaster for this one. All right, that'll do it for this video. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.